When whippoorwill call, and evening is night, I hurry to my blue heaven.
Welcome to episode number 14 of My Blue Heaven. How exciting to be here. First preview show for 2019. Now let me just say right at the top of the show, this is a one-off. Next week will be a different format. I'll be reviewing the Richmond game and also previewing the Port Adelaide game coming up next week in a special edition. But today, it's all about previewing the big game, round one action, MCG against the Tigers on Thursday night. We are 48 hours away before they bounce the ball in anger. We're also 24 hours away before the teams are announced around about 6 p.m, I think it may be, on Wednesday evening. The 22, which will line up, the 22 Carlton players that will take on Richmond in the big opening round of the AFL season. Let's get it underway. Certainly a sense of anticipation, nervousness, a range of emotions, excitement, mix them all up together, and just amazing to consider that we are going to be opening up 2019, the Carlton Football Club, against the Premiers from 2017, the team that made the prelim final last year. I know there are a lot of opposition supporters out there who are quite angry that we continue to open up the season, but fuck it, who cares? Suck it up, princesses. The Blues are back. We're about to explode. If you don't like it, bad luck. I know that you'll all be watching and most of you will be hoping that we fail on the big stage once again. But Blue Baggers, let's be confident that we can get the job done on Thursday night against the Tigers. It's our first game, our first home game at the MCG for 2019. We have 7 games at the home of football over the course of the year, 5 home games. Let's get the first one underway against the Tigers. Head to head, look, it's fair to say, the Tigers have owned us for a long period of time now. We haven't won against Richmond since that 2013 elimination final at the MCG in front of 94,000 people. Only 4 players from the Carlton list remain from that team, and I think only 3 will be playing on Thursday night. And on the other hand, the Tigers still have about 10 players who played in that game in 2013. So that just shows you the big turnover in regards to our list since 2013. As I mentioned, Richmond have really had our measure over the past 5 or 6 years. Look, there haven't been any big blowouts. We've been pretty competitive in most of those games. Last year's result, 26 points. We kicked the first 5 goals of the game. I think courtesy of a number of 50-metre penalties, which we were able to get throughout the evening, brought that margin back. And I suppose Richmond, the margin probably could have been bigger. They had something like 38 scoring shots. Richmond kicked poorly on that night, but we certainly did play probably our best football for the year in the opening quarter of that game. So it's about time that we turn the tables on the Tigers, and I'm quietly confident that we can be ultra competitive against Richmond on Thursday night. Straight off the bat, those 3 players, Ed Curnow, Cade Simpson, the evergreen Cade Simpson, and Mark Murphy are the only Carlton players to taste success against the Tigers. Also, Matty Cruiser tasted success against the Tigers in 2013, but I don't think he'll take his place on Thursday night. I hate to say it, but I really do admire the way Richmond have been able over the last, say, 5 or 6 years to build a list. They got their act together off the field. And I think, Carlton are probably trying to aspire to what Richmond, the blueprint, as was released last week, is pretty much what Richmond did, 4 seasons back under Brendan Gale and also their president, Peggy O'Neill. They must be applauded for what they've been able to do. They're a really stable club now, Richmond. A little bit jealous, a little bit envious of what they've been able to do. So we're up against it in the opening game of the season. look, let's just put it into context. We're coming off a pretty low base in contrast to the Tigers. Our season was absolutely disastrous last year, and a lot's been made of it. Look, we had, I think, in the end, something like 8 defeats over the 10 goals, which was really disappointing. We had 3 defeats or 3 smashings, which were over 100 points. We cannot afford to ever go back to what we experienced last year, both from a club point of view and also from a supporter point of view. So we are coming off even though we've had some, let's say, some positive JLT form leading into round 1, we certainly still on the big stage come off a very low base compared to Richmond, who really had a fantastic season, buttering up from their 2017 premiership. They were able to make a prelim final, came up against a rampaging Collingwood, who pretty much in the end beat the Tigers at their own game. With a surge of goals late in the first quarter into the second quarter, put the game to bed really before half time. And look, the Tigers will be really, really savage on that, and expecting big things from them in 2019. As mentioned, we're still 24 hours away from selection, and it'd be interesting to see what transpires over the next 24 hours in regards to what our match committee will do. I spoke at length in episode number 13 when I was at training on Saturday about what I think may happen. I personally think we'll go unchanged from the team that faced Collingwood in Morwell. So we only played the 22 players. I just get a feeling we will not have a change, even though there is some conjecture amongst a lot of supporters in regards to Jared Garlett and also Cam Polson and their spots in the team and what is their role. And also the fact that Alex Vassallo is knocking on the door to play his first game for the Carlton Football Club. Also, Jack Savani had some really good form in the VFL. He had something like 23 disposals and 16 tackles against the Pies about 10 days ago. And also, I have a feeling that maybe even Lockie O'Brien could give us some outside run on the MCG. But I just have that feeling, and I would like to see us go in unchanged, just based on the fact that the 22 players that will take the field on Thursday night would have had 2 JLT games under their belt at pretty high intensity, and 19 of that players also played in the practice game against Hawthorn about 3 weeks ago. So that's 3 high intensity practice games under the guidance of new high performance manager Andrew Russell. He really has got these players primed physically, but probably more importantly, he's got them primed mentally with bolts in regards to the way they want to approach this game. I think this game's going to be played as much above the head as it is in regards to skill. And I think that the match conditioning, the training that these players have had under their belt should hold them in good stead for 4 quarters of pretty hard football. So I think it mightn't be our best team going forward. In fact, I still think there's a number of players that can come into this team and make us a lot better, a lot stronger. Obviously, Marchbank and Williamson down back. Matty Cruiser in the ruck at some stage will replace Andrew Phillips. And Lockie O'Brien as well, Jack Silvani, just on the fringe at the moment. What could their roles be going forward? And obviously, Alex Vassallo was brought to the club to offer a lot of support up in the forward line. But I have noticed in match sim that Alex Vassallo has been spending a fair bit of time running through the midfield as well. So that should be something to keep an eye on. But I'd love to see Alex Vassallo play another full game in the VFL. He's only had the 3 quarters against the Collingwood VFL team as his only match practice coming off that broken arm. I know he's had a lot of running and a lot of conditioning at training, but as in regards to playing a full game against quality opposition for 4 quarters, I just think we really need to stick to the blokes that have really put in the hard yards through the JLT and also in that first practice match. So I'm saying that we will go unchanged from that game against the Pies in Morwell last Monday. Let's go to the game itself and what we expect. Look, it's difficult to tell. Watched both Richmond JLT games. They won both of them. Came from behind in both of them. Just did enough to win in both games. Weren't, I suppose, particularly impressive, but they beat quality opposition on both occasions. Melbourne up in, I think it was Shepparton and Hawthorn, who led by, I think, 40-odd points at one stage in the game and overran them in the second half. Hawthorn took a few players off. So they really did a lot of this last year. They were able to put the foot on the pedal at crucial times in games and really break away. And they have that ability. I think it's a pretty simple game, this one, on Thursday night with us. And I suppose it's been probably the one positive, or one of the real positives for us so far in the pre-seasons, is our clearance play. We've won the clearances on both occasions against the Bombers and the Pies. Particularly out of the middle in the first game, we were sensational. And in the second game against Collingwood, we were certainly pretty good at the stoppages and getting the first use of the ball. So I think, it's very simple. We really need to win those centre square clearances to have any chance in this game. We know how good Richmond have been at setting up behind the ball. They're probably not going to be able to do it with the new 6-6-6 rule. In the past, even in their premiership year and last year, they were quite happy to concede first possession. But the likes of Rance, Lost Stone, Hooley, Grimes, even McIntosh, Camden McIntosh are so good at setting up behind the ball, concede first possession, and then really hurt on the rebound. So we really need to win those stoppages. I'm quite confident. If you look at those matchups in the middle, and I think our starting lineup is going to be pretty predictable as what it's been so far. There might be a few surprises, who knows, but I think Cripps and the two youngsters, Dow in his second year and Sam Petreski-Seaton with Andrew Phillips with our starting lineup in the middle. I'd like to see those boys take most of the centre square duties and really go to work with the likes of Cunningham, Fisher, Welsh and Setterfield. Just lending a helping hand throughout the game, and also Harry McKay. A little bit of a concern with McKay going into centre bounces, particularly late in quarters. Richmond could do a lot of damage in there if we get Harry McKay, particularly up against Toby Nankervis. So they're pitted against, I think the starting lineup for the Tigers will be Martin, Cotchin and Prestia. So that initial first bounce will be crucial. Who will win it? Hopefully it's us. Hopefully we're able to break away really quickly and win that first clearance and get some real confidence going forward into our forward half. They do back pretty deep though, the Tigers, through their midfield. They've got Edwards who can go in there as well. Who else have they got? Lambert, who's an exceptional footballer. Graham, who may get a role, may get a tagging role on a Patrick Cripps or even a Zach Fisher. They may even target a Zach Fisher as probably being our most dangerous outside player and think that if they can stop him, that may go a way of stopping our outside run. He could even go to a Mark Murphy, who could be used as an outside runner for us as well. So keep an eye on that. And also young Higgins as well is starting to play a lot more of a midfield role after playing predominantly as a small forward last year. Such a smart young footballer. He could spend some time through that midfield and push up as a high half forward as well and provide that extra little bit of grunt for the Tigers. Very smart player, young Higgins as well. So we need to keep an eye on him. Look, as I mentioned, those clearances, those contested possessions are going to be vital for us. It's been a real strength. Our ball use is still a concern though. We need to be able to, if we're going to go long, we need to put it to a dangerous spot. And we need our forwards to halve the contest. We haven't clunked many forward of centre inside our forward 50. Harry's probably been our best marking target through the pre-season. Unfortunately, Charlie hasn't been able to catch a cold so far, but he's just about ready. There were some signs in the Collingwood game and the Essendon game that he was just about to get get his sort of mitts going. I think he will enjoy the MCG. I think he will enjoy the big occasion. I think Mitch McGovern will enjoy the big occasion as well. But it's about being able for those three players up against some quality defenders in Rance, Grimes, and also Asprey. Asprey and Grimes more your lockdown type defenders. And Rance have the ability to play on someone and then just read the play beautifully and go and support as well. So we can't all go to the one spot, but the most important thing and something we didn't do really well against Collingwood, and Roughhead and Moore were able to outmark us on a number of occasions. That will be disastrous for us if the Tigers are able to take one uncontested marks in their back 50 and even contested marks, because we know how good they are on rebounding the ball from their defensive 50. With the new 6-6 rule, will defence become a little bit more difficult for the Tigers? We'll just have to wait and see. They've got some terrific assistant coaches, and Damien Hardwick, Blake Carosella, Justin Lepage will certainly have a plan. They may sense that we may have an advantage in the clearance area. We really need our small forwards to go to work and really provide that defensive pressure. Paulson, Gibbons, Cunningham are all able to provide us that. Now, if we're going to play Ed Curnow forward, he needs to have an impact. I'll get to what I'd like Ed Curnow to provide us a little bit later on. But once our ball's inside forward 50, it's just very, very important that we're able to lock it in and get repeat stoppages and give ourselves a chance. What I would like to see, and it hasn't happened, is get some conventional goals. And what I mean by conventional goals is goals from marks inside forward 50. A little bit easier. We're quite messy, a little bit unorthodox going inside forward 50, which is great. But I don't think we're going to win a game of football if we rely on snaps and running goals. We need to have a fair share or a combination of both crumbing goals and also marks on the lead and also contested marks. So I'd like to see us become a little bit more conventional, lower the eyes going inside forward 50 and really use the ball well. I'm not quite sure of the combination of who Rance will go to. I'm not quite sure who Asprey or Grimes will go to. It will probably depend on who pushes up the ground. All our three forwards are quite mobile. Harry, Charlie and McGovern like to push up the ground and provide space out the back. So that'll be interesting to see whether those three key defenders rotate on that. But a couple of players I'd like to really concentrate on from Richmond on Thursday night in their back half. Now, I know Hawley is a real setup player. He's probably not as penetrating as he once was, but he is an accumulator. He's a smart footballer. He missed a lot of last year and he seems to be back in quite good form. We can't let him roam free and win a lot of the football, but I suppose the player we need to, and he's been in outstanding form so far in the JLT, is Jaden Short. A real fine young footballer. Great, unlucky not to be an All-Australian last year. I thought as one of the best small defenders in the competition, probably just behind Rory Laird. His ball use is outstanding. He's arguably the best kick in the AFL on both sides of the body, and he has a tendency to drift forward and kick goals as well. I think he had 29 possessions in the game up at Shepparton against the D's, and he ran at 82% disposal efficiency. He can kick long distances. He kicked 9 goals last season, being able to run down the field. He can kick from long range. This is a job, I think, for Cam Paulson. I think he can run with him. I don't want it to be a complete tag. Cam Paulson needs to be dangerous. He needs to be able to hit the scoreboard himself, but he needs to be accountable for Jaden Short. We cannot afford the ball in the hands of Jaden Short because he will absolutely destroy us on the way out. The other bloke I'd like us to put a little bit of work into, and I think he may get under the guard with Rance, Asprey and Grimes being the three pillars down back, is Nick Vloss-Stone. Now, will he start back or could he go into the midfield? He has drifted forward on occasions last year, but he's that real intercept defender. Likes to zone off. I think this is the job for Ed Curnow. We cannot afford Nick Vostone to be taking uncontested marks. He's very, very courageous. He'll go into the holes. He'll put his body on the line. We need Ed to be with him. We need Ed to be putting a lot of pressure on him and not allowing Nick Vostone, who is another very good user of the ball, to be taking uncontested or even contested marks in the Tigers' back fifth. I mentioned the midfield. I'm actually happy to roll the dice with the midfielders. They clearly have an advantage, a lot more experience. And they have probably the most dynamic player in the competition in Dustin Martin, who we've always had troubles with. I don't see the need to have a tag or even a run with player with Dustin Martin. I think we need to be proactive in the midfield and not be too concerned of wasting a player running with Dustin Martin. If he's going to get off the bike, he's going to get off the bike. We need to be accountable both ways, our midfield. But I think we go head-to-head with the Tigers midfield. I think we've got enough depth now, even though it's a young midfield. Cripps is probably our most experienced player in there, considering that Murph now is more of a winger and even possibly going to half-back. And we've got Ed being that defensive forward. Really, it's Cripper at 24 years of age and the rest are, your 20, 21-year-olds. So it's very young up against a really, really experienced midfield. But I'd like to see us just roll the dice. Roll it, see how it goes. I don't think we can save the game by having a full-on tag on a Dustin Martin or even a Trent Cotchin. But I suppose I can see it happening if one of those two or even a Dion Prestia gets off the bike. They can become very dangerous. Probably their most creative player is Edwards, though. He's the one who can win the ball around the stoppages and feed it out and be a very dangerous player. But as far as the midfield goes, let's see how we go. We've got some dynamic players in there ourselves that can explode away from the stoppage. But have we got the outside run and the smarts of the Tigers? We're just going to have to wait and see. I suppose there's been a bit of concern about our back six and the fact that we've still got a number of players still missing, preferred players. Obviously, Doc went down, and he's out of contention for a second year running. It'd be great. How good would it to have his, marching ability and his rebound down there and his smarts, but he's not going to be there for 12 months. No Callum Marchbank, probably our best intercept defender and probably our most explosive and best up-and-coming running defender who's got a bit of grunt and a bit of mongrel about him in Tom Williamson. But we go in with a back six that have played together for 3 practice games. It's not ideal, but the fact they've been steady, they've actually been steady. It's more the fact that our midfield haven't been able to push back and provide that extra support, which has really left our defensive mechanisms a little bit exposed. To be honest, Richmond's forward half really, really scares me, and I think it would scare any opposition. Although the fact that Josh Caddy isn't there and the fact that there's a huge question mark on Tom Lynch just makes them a fraction vulnerable. A lot will be left up to the experience of Jack Riewoldt. I rate Riewoldt as the best all-round key forward in the game. He is unbelievable. Probably the best team forward in the game. He's never out of the contest. I noticed during the week that he'd had his first child. I think that may have been on Monday or Sunday, so hopefully he hasn't had much sleep. That can play into our advantage. I'd like to see, if Lynch doesn't play, I'd like to see maybe Wiedering get the opportunity on Jack. I think it'd be a great opportunity for Jacob Wiedering in his 4th season after an up and down season last year. He's had a really good and strong JLT series to get that opportunity to pit himself against one of the best. And I think he's quite capable of being really competitive against one of the best key forwards in the competition. That leaves Jones on, say, a bolter. But it's the small forwards that are the real concern. Who do we have down there that are able to, 1, lock down, but 2, provide the overlap run to release our ball from the back half, which we have some real concerns of. Rioli is a real live wire, just makes things happen. Great defensive pressure. Who goes to him? I really don't know. Is it Daisy, Simo? Is it Garlett? Who else do we have down there who can play on a small forward? There's rumours that Murph might go back, and Butler, Dan Butler. I mean, he's another one who will just get under the guard. Kicked a couple, I think, last year against us with Jason Castagna. Always causes us a few headaches, Dan Butler. So we're going to have our work cut out inside our forward 50. Inside our defensive 50. But it all comes down, once again, it comes down to the clearances. It comes down to the contested possessions, getting first use of the ball, and making sure that we're able to lock that ball inside our forward 50 and try and protect our defence from Richmond being able to move the ball really quickly into our forward half. We've seen that when we are exposed and opposition are able to get that ball over the top, it can be really disastrous for us. So it's going to be one we really need to really have a good look at before Thursday night. Am I confident? Yeah, I am. I think the closer the game comes and the weather looks great, a little bit overcast at the moment, predicting a pretty nice night at the MCG. So there'll be no excuses for either team in regards to the way the game should be played. I'm confident that we can be competitive. I'm confident that we're not going to revisit the horrifics of last season. I'm confident we are prepared. We're physically prepared. Am I confident we are mentally prepared right now? I'm not quite sure. We've only had 3 players who'll play on Thursday night who've beaten the Tigers. That will be a bit of an issue. So will we be intimidated on the big stage against one of the best teams in the competition who across the board, I know they rely on the likes of Cochrane, Martin and Revolt, but across the board, they're just so even. Everyone plays their role with Richmond. So will we be intimidated? We just need a contribution for every player. We've spoken about role players, and please, no more Messiah effect at Carlton. We love Patrick Cripps. We love Charlie Curnow. But we want to love Jared Garlett. We want to love Michael Gibbons. We want to love Cam Paulson. We need these 3 boys, and we need the other players who are just on the periphery to start providing, us with a contribution. And that's the way we should be focusing on this game on Thursday night. I don't think we'll win. I just can't see it happening. Richmond is such a fantastic side. Even though their form hasn't been outstanding, I think they'll just be a little bit too good. I think it'll be pretty close for pretty much the whole game. A lot of people saying we'll be with them until halftime, and the game might break open after halftime. But I'm pretty confident that we have the run in our legs, and we'll be able to see this game out and hopefully get within 3 goals against the Tigers in round 1. Let's hope that's the case, that we are really competitive, and you never know, it could be a win and a famous win and get our season off to a fantastic start. I'm excited. I hope you're excited. I'll be there Thursday night, and I'll be back next week with a review of the show and a preview of the big clash against Port Adelaide over at the Adelaide Oval in round 2. If you like these videos, guys, please subscribe and give us a like. It's a Glow Blue Baggers for Thursday night. And if I just try and get this out of my pocket, this is my trusty pen, which I will be taking with me to the game on Thursday night. Bye-bye.